So there is an anti-marijuana New York Assemblyman who was just busted for weed possession. What are you going to do with these guys? A Republican lawmaker in New York who has a record of voting against medical marijuana legalization has been arrested and charged with possession of marijuana. State police said that a suspicious odor was noticed in Assemblyman Steve Katz vehicle when they pulled him over driving around 80 miles per hour in a 75 miles per hour zone at around 10 a.m. on Thursday morning. Quote, after noticing the odor of marijuana, a New York State trooper found Katz in possession of a small bag of marijuana, a statement from state police said, according to the Times Union. Katz was given an appearance ticket for having less than 25 grams and is scheduled to appear in Coyman's Town Court on March 8th. He also faces charges for speeding. Last year, the Assemblyman voted against a bill that would have legalized medical marijuana in New York. Katz's office said that he was expected to release a statement later or Friday. So yet again, another example of complete and utter hypocrisy. You know, I never understood how it's possible for somebody to wall off one part of their mind where they could think, yeah, it's fine if I smoke marijuana, but if somebody else is caught, like a black kid or a Spanish kid, you throw them in fucking jail. Do they not think? Is that what it is? Do they not realize that they're tremendous hypocrites and absolute idiots? I don't know what it is. But anyway, let me give you guys some drug war facts so we know just how deep the rot goes in terms of this issue. So, 4 decades after Richard Nixon declared the war on drugs in 1971, we've spent $1 trillion. Now, what do we have to show for it? Kids are actually more likely today to take drugs than they were before the war on drugs. Now, you tell me, isn't that the exact measure as to whether or not this war on drugs has been successful? I would think that the way you measure it is, all right, well, how many people are taking drugs today? That number has increased even though we spent $1 trillion. What a tremendous failure and a monumental waste of money. So I didn't even mention the fact that 50,000 people have died because of the war on drugs, and that number is steadily climbing. In fact, I think this number is outdated and it's much higher than that. So there's an actual war going on the Mexican border. That's also ridiculous. You're going to have 50,000 people die so little Jimmy doesn't take a hit of a bong? Is that really worth it? Is that a fair trade-off? So the United Nations estimated that the global illegal trade is worth more than $320 billion. It also estimates that there are 230 million illegal drug users in the world, yet 90% of them are not classified as problematic. So think about that, because that's exactly like alcohol, right? Alcohol is one of those drugs where it's the most common thing in the world. You drink it at a bar, you drink it at your friend's house, you drink it at home. It is what it is. Nobody bats an eyelash, right? Well, just as most people who drink alcohol are fine and dandy and live normal lives, 90% of people in the illegal drug trade are fine. They live normal lives. That's a stunning number, and that flies right in the face of what the propaganda has been for decades. So in the United States, if illegal drugs were taxed at rates comparable to those on alcohol and tobacco, they would yield $46.7 billion in tax revenue. So all of you fiscal conservatives out there who actually want to balance the budget and reduce the deficit, here you go. This is a perfect opportunity sitting right in front of your nose. And also, a Cato Institute study says that legalizing drugs would save the U.S. about $41 billion a year in enforcing the drug laws. So that's a grand total in savings of about $87.7 billion if we were to just have smart drug policy. So we have 50,000 people in jail for drug-related crime, and a Pew study says it costs the U.S. an average of $30,000 a year to incarcerate an inmate. Now, if you compare that to what we spend on a public school student, we spend $11,665 per public school student. So we spend more on incarcerating somebody who may have casually done drugs than we do on educating people. Nice priorities. Way to go, America. And in 1925, I got this great quote I want to share with you. This is H.L. Mencken. He wrote an impassioned plea about prohibition when there was the prohibition of alcohol going on. He said, quote, "Prohibition has not only failed in its promises, but actually created additional serious and disturbing social problems throughout society. There is not less drunkenness in the republic, but more. There is not less crime, but more. The cost of government is not smaller, but vastly greater. Respect for law has not increased, but diminished. And every single thing he said about alcohol in that quote is exactly related to the war on drugs. Prohibition has never worked, it never will work, and it's time to get sane about our drug policy. Where they legalized and where they decriminalized, Portugal and the Netherlands, drug usage rates has actually decreased, as well as crime rates, and as well as, there's one other. Usage, crime, and spread of disease, of course. It's a no-brainer, man. It's the biggest no-brainer you could possibly imagine.